All right. I'd like to tell you about a time that I had gotten a job, but I got it through negotiation and I didn't plan on it. So let's jump right into the story. And maybe it'll encourage you to get out there and make some more decisions that put you in a place to have the type of negotiation that I got. So I was looking for a position as a programmer, and I had to make the plans to drive up to the Twin Cities to do this. And there were so many things I had to organize to do this. Remote work was not quite a thing yet. Remote work was possible, but it wasn't very common. In fact, the position that I ended up getting, that I'm going to tell you about right now, was a remote work position for part of the time. However, most of it was not remote work, which means on-site interviews for this position and for, I'll tell you about another position. The situation was that I had put myself in a place of being able to have several offers on the table at the same time. And if you can put yourself in that place, what that does is it gives you negotiation power. And you might feel like you're a broker who is negotiating salary, benefits, pay, but for yourself, not for others, but for yourself. Most people don't think of themselves in this way. In fact, if you're like me, you're the type of person who just thinks, well, I have some skills and I hope some people will take me. But the problem with that is that puts you in a very low negotiating position, a very low position of power. Where you want to be is up here, where you're able to make some decisions and control some of the process when you're getting into your tech job. Now, it helps to be in a position and going for a role that is highly competitive in the marketplace. Right now, there are several of those roles. I won't go through all of them. However, you've got to remember that if you're trying to get a position that nobody wants to hire for, you will not be in a position of power. You will be trying to push your way into the roles. However, on the other hand, if you're trying to get a position that's highly desirable, like I was in the situation I'll tell you about, then you will be in a position of power. Or you could be in a position of power. If others are competing for the job that you are competing for, you have to be in a position of power. And by power, I don't mean a cocky, proud sort of person who's throwing his or her weight around. It's a position where you get to make some decisions, and it brings to bear onto the role and the company who's going to hire you. All right. So with all of that as kind of a background, here's exactly what happened to me, just so you know it's possible, so that you might be able to put yourself in the same sort of situation, and so that your spouse, your family, can be excited about the role that you are getting. All right. So here's what happened. Like I said, was interviewing for positions in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, but I had to drive from Iowa to do this. I was getting out of a position as a pastor where I had been planting a church, and I had to turn the church over to someone else. And so God did this for me. He did it to me or for me. I know it was for my good. It's what he wanted. So here I was trying to find a position in the Twin Cities. I had a lot of help around me, recruiters, supportive people at the church. They helped us move. They did a lot, but it wasn't time for us to move yet. The family had to stay down in Iowa while I had to drive up 3.5 hours to Minneapolis or St. Paul and take a bunch of interviews along the way. I got to a point where I had gotten through with one interview, and I got back into my van to get ready to travel back to Iowa because it was just an interview day. Drove up in the morning, gonna drive back at the end of the day. So I was done with my interviews, and this one interview I got done with, was a great one. I thought that there was a lot of rapport. They evaluated my technical skills. I was able to speak confidently. I was a little bit nervous. I still maintained a little bit of an air of, which was natural, but a little bit of an air of, I need this job. So don't, I think I have another video up where I go over where I kind of acted like I didn't really need the job. The problem with that is that might be something that's good to do if you're a salesperson. You don't really need their money. But if you're interviewing to take a position, you might need the money. You might need it. And if you show, and most people do, and if you show that you don't really need it, they may take that the wrong way. Like why are you even here? Okay. So I just remember the feeling I had getting out of the interview thinking, this went really well. I can't believe it. I think it was in October. And I was just so thankful that an interview went really well. So I was probably thanking God at that point, praying and giving thanks. So I get back in the van. It's an old Sienna, Toyota Sienna. It's beat up. I call it the dream cruiser because I slept in it so much during these interview processes and even during the job that I got after this. I slept, took naps in it because I was just so tired from driving all the time, guys. That's crazy. So understand me. I need some rest, power nap once in a while. All right, so I get in the car, the van, and I get ready to go back down to Iowa. And I get a call, and it's from the company that I just interviewed with. Okay, I'm taking the call. They're talking to me, and they make an offer for me, and I was ecstatic. Now, I knew something about taking offers. I knew that it would be very important to talk with my wife about it, and the company that called me understood that. And so that's your first takeaway. Don't just say yes to the offer right away. Say, it sounds great. I'd like to just go back and talk with my wife, my husband. If you're not married, talk with a significant other or parent, just to make sure that it's looking right. So I did that. I hung up. They could tell I was excited. They could tell that I wanted the position, and I really wanted it. I was ready to just call back within 5 minutes and say, yes, I'll take it. However, I got another call, and I thought it was them at first, but it wasn't. So when I saw who was calling in, it was another number from the Twin Cities, and I had no idea. Maybe it was my recruiter. I don't know. But when I picked up and answered the phone, it was another job that I had interviewed for, and they were making me an offer as well. So here's the deal. I had a thing. I don't think I wanted to take that position. However, I may have. And right away, what I did was I said, let me talk to my wife. So we've got job A over here, job B. Job A calls. I say, I'll get right back to you. Job B calls, then makes me another offer. I said, I'll get right back to you. And I called back A and I said, hey, I just got a call from another company. I may have even mentioned it, the company name to them. And I said, this is what they offered. Would you be able to do something better? And that right there, they said yes. That right there gave me a $5,000 increase, maybe even 10. Yes, it was 10,000 more than the original A call. So the first A call was a certain amount. I won't tell you how much. It was a good amount, one of the best I've ever had. At that point, it was the best in my life. All right, said no. B called, said 5,000 more, and then they topped it. They were ready to take me. I don't know how wise of a decision that was for that company to offer me 10 more than their original. But it happened, and it's what the company wanted and they needed, and they got good value out of me for the time I was with them. So now, that sounds like a magic scenario, And you can't replicate it, you can't control that, but you certainly can do the things that there are certainly things that you can do to put yourself in that situation. Now, let me tell you what those are. Interview a lot. Stay accountable to your interview process. In order to get interviews a lot, of course, you've got to apply to a lot. You've got to keep track. Use some sort of KPI about your resumes. How are the resumes performing? Keep a daily KPI. How are you doing every single day applying and customizing your resume and making sure you're using AI to help it shape it up, or you're consulting with a person who's been there before and knows what they're doing with negotiating and applying and navigating the tech marketplace? You've got to be doing all those things consistently, and you have to work on your performance as well, your presentation. So we've got performance, presentation, and persistence. Persistence is just going at it day by day. Jerry Seinfeld would write a joke a day, cross off the day on the calendar, and have this series of X's. And one day, you're tempted not to apply to an interview. Should you? Well, look at the series of X's on the calendar. You've applied every other day. Do it, or else don't break the chain. And those are some things you need to do. You need to work on your presentation as well. Are you the type of person that can speak well? You know, I've had to speak for my job many times before I got into tech, teaching real estate, teaching a little bit of insurance, teaching as a preaching pastor, teaching kids for Sunday school, teaching violin, all of those things. I've been able to work on speaking. And it doesn't mean you have to take a speaking gig outside of tech. It just means, are you aware of how you speak? Do you use a lot of ums and ahs, or do you come across a little bit more confidently than that? And you have to work on your performance. Most people focus just on performance. They get so many skills. They are stuck in what people call tutorial purgatory, or they can't get out of it, or they don't even know they're stuck. They just keep taking more tutorials, and they never really are able to pad their resume with anything. So you need to get some skills, but you also need to put them to the test and do projects for others, whether paid or for free. So if you've made it to the end of this video, just want to give you some help. Look down, you should see a link to my free framework, just a story of how I got into tech and the things I went through. And I hope you'll take me up on that offer. And it should be free. All right, thanks for watching, and put yourself in a position so that you can negotiate yourself to higher benefits, higher salary, and don't lose your power by acting too confident or just pretending that you're going to get a job without all the work that goes behind it. Getting a tech job today or any day is tough because the competition is fierce, and you really have to provide value for the place you're going to.